Awesome, kezdhetünk. Hi everyone, thanks for coming back for this new season, and I'm glad to see quite many of you. I hope it's for you guys, or maybe it's for the panel after you, but we'll find out. No, it's for you as well. So I'm happy to have you guys here. Adrian from FZW, and Jep from Vega. From Copenhagen, and you're from Dortmund, and we're going to talk with you guys about the European club scene and club networks, and more specifically about the one you work in Copenhagen and in Dortmund, and how you see your closer environment and context. But first, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself shortly and just tell us a little bit about you and your work, and how you ended up there, and then we continue. And Adrian first.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Adrian. I'm from Dortmund in Germany, Western Germany, and I'm the head of program at FZW, and it's a venue. It's a quite old venue, so we started mid-60s. Then we moved 17 years ago to another venue. We have the main hall is like 1,300 capacity, the smaller one 300, and yeah, we're producing like around 250 shows a year. And yeah, I started my career 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago, as a tour manager, and did small like basement shows in Dortmund and around. And then 8 years ago, I started working at FZW. First, I only was the production manager there, just a host for the bands, and since 4 years I'm the programmer there. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Jeppe?
Yeah, Jeppe from Vega in Copenhagen. Actually, Vega celebrates its 30th anniversary this year, so 30 years. It's like the flagship venue in Denmark, sometimes also Scandinavia. We are a 1,500 capacity. We also have a 500 capacity, and we have a 200 capacity. So we're sort of able to accommodate artists on different levels. We do approximately 450 shows a year. I have been at Vega for 10 years, but I've been in all sorts of different positions. I've been in the PR department. I've also been the venue, kind of day-to-day production manager kind of thing. I did nightclubs for a couple of years, but I've been doing the bookings since 2017, 18, I think, now. I have a background in the DIY community in Copenhagen, so I used to do a lot of DIY shows. I had lots of bands sleeping in my apartment, and sometimes I remember like I did the sound, I did the entrance, and I did the band care, everything at once at those kind of shows. But being at Vega still makes it possible to see some parts of the DIY scene, at least still be in contact and working with smaller upcoming acts. I also booked the program for a festival we have at Vega called the Colossal Weekend, which is a more like alternative, not only metal but experimental kind of festival with lots of acts from all over Europe, actually all over the world. It takes place in May. We have we have a couple of other different events which mainly focus on the upcoming scene. Mostly domestic acts, but we book acts from all over the world. Yeah, that's about it.
That's great, thanks. And so, from the DIY scene, working at Vega, was that a goal, or it was just by chance?
I always looked up to Vega, like it was like this is kind of the place to be if you want to work with music in Denmark. Denmark is a small country, so I've always been really like. Familiar with what was going on at Vega, so when the chance came, I was really, really happy. It took a long time, many years before I had a proper position, but I always did 2 jobs, maybe 3 jobs, but was able to sort of get my foot in at Vega. Yeah, definitely a dream come true, but I mean, we are a venue that does every genre, so it can be really like niche underground, but we also do all the commercial and big acts as well. So I mean, there's still a part of me where I can see myself and my heart, bring my heart along, but I also need to get the job done. You know,
pay the bills
and
for
pay the bills.
venue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Just continuing with you, could you give us a bit of a sense of the Danish music scene and what's going on there? I mean, we comparatively like similar sized countries, and I guess you also suffer from the small country syndromes, but you're also much, I don't know, stronger, richer countries, so there's probably a lot of differences. But just in terms of the music scenes and what's going on, briefly, could you explain us a bit?
Yeah, lots of stuff is happening in the Danish music scene right now. It's we saw post-COVID that the domestic scene become really strong. Lots of acts now can easily sell out our main room, which would rarely happen before. So right now there's a really strong domestic scene. Everyone sings in Danish. It's genre-wise, it's all over the place. It's very chaotic, to be honest, but it's still really professionalized. One thing that you need to take into consideration is that every, like, not even major cities, I don't know if you have those in Denmark, but every big city in Denmark has their own festival, so you can actually make a living out of only playing in Denmark. So there's a really strong domestic scene going on, and that is, I mean, that's great. I mean, we sell tickets, but I don't think it's that great for the diversity and the creativity and the inspiration, because it all happens between the same people and between the same agencies, etc. So it's a good business case for them, but I mean, creatively and diversity-wise, we suffer a bit. Yeah.
And Adrian, what's Germany like from your perspective? I mean, it's a much more difficult case because it's huge, but maybe also like place Dortmund in all the other German cities or scenes, if there is a case for it.
For us in Dortmund, we are like a little bit under the radar as a city, especially in music, because there's like we have Berlin as the capital and the music capital nowadays. Hamburg, Cologne, Munich. So this is like the main areas, maybe Frankfurt, where all the international artists go to. And so we have more or less a focus on more the domestic acts. And I think I think percentage-wise, it's like 80% domestic and 20% is like international acts playing at our place. But yeah, it's getting better. So because Cologne is quite expensive to produce shows, so even it's just an hour away from us, for example. But yeah, it's getting easier.
Why is it more expensive?
Because yeah, you have more clubs, more professionals around there, so it's like increases the prices. So we're the only club in Dortmund for a city of 600,000 inhabitants in that size. So in Cologne you have like 10 of it, and they can just like raise the prices, and we keep our balance. Yeah. So and a few promoters know that, and they're now coming to our place and saying like, okay, I want the international act to play Dortmund because the Cologne guys can easily go there within an hour. So this might be a chance for us in the near future, I guess. Yeah.
Dortmund was big in the 90s, known for techno and the Maydays.
It was known for techno. It still is at some point. We're especially known for the football club. So I think this is the main reason why people are coming to Dortmund, and the Christmas market. But yeah, we have a little bit of a comeback in all this area. It's the Ruhr area, Ruhrgebiet, and it's like an industrialized, industrialized cities They really grew fast after the Second World War, and then all the coal mines and stuff stopped, and then now we have to like reinvent those cities at some point. So it's historically seen, it's interesting at the moment.
Yeah, what Jeppe was talking about, how the domestic scene become much stronger. It's same in Hungary. I think in Germany, because it was already pretty strong, because it's a huge domestic market anyways. Was there a change like that? Did you experience it in any significant ways?
Yeah, I mean, in Germany it was easy to become an artist a few years ago. Nowadays it's more rough, because there are so many artists like touring around, want to get the slots on the festivals. The festivals in Germany, because of this massive like increase of all prices and stuff, like all the festivals slowly going down at the moment, except the big ones, of course, like Rock am Ring and something like that. So, or Wacken, for example. But even this, and all of the bands want to play those festivals, want to play those venues, and there are too many of them, to be honest. At some point, too many good ones, and even then for the artists coming from abroad, it's more difficult to get into the slots, because it's a bit more cheap to just have a German act playing on a German festival, for example.
Yeah, let's give some hope here also.
Yeah. I hope it will.
When it comes to touring and foreign acts, do you have what's your criteria, or what are the things you're looking at when a foreign band shows up in your email, or maybe somewhere else in your Insta reels or somewhere else, and what are you looking at?
It depends. So when it's like a new band, we have, with the help of Live Europe, or being part of the Live Europe network, we have the chance to invite the bands we like, to be honest. We not have to have like a real focus on ticket sales, for example. So I can invite a band from Hungary, pay a quite okay fee, and it's not that important to sell whatever 200 tickets in the small room. For all the other bands, it depends on the ticket sales, to be honest. So we're not publicly funded or something like that. So I really have to keep an eye on what sells tickets at the very end. And even if I like a lot of bands, but I can't do it without having some sort of a guarantee to like whatever to have 60% tickets sold.
And do you have opening acts for even the bigger domestic ones, or they are usually standalone gigs?
Because of the agency structures in Germany, it's nearly not possible to like fill in the supports on our own. So we're like, yeah.
They bring their own.
They bring their own, yeah. Most of the times. There are a few who don't, but it's really rare. Yeah.
So if a band was going to try and look for opening slots, then it would be better to go to the agencies of the bands they see touring around.
Yeah. And I think it's, in Germany, for example, to support a domestic German act, it's all about the bands coming together. So at some point, it's not about the agents. For example, when a band like Milky Chance is coming to Hungary, a Hungarian band needs to connect on a personal level to the band directly. And then you maybe have a chance to be the support act for Milky Chance in Germany, for example. So this is kind of weird system. And of course there are strategic points for the agents as well, but my impression is that it's most of the time like, oh, okay, those dudes are cool, I want to have them on my tour, and maybe we don't care if it's a good fit or something like that. It's more like on a personal level.
Yeah. Do you see that as well? Do you experience that?
Not to the same extent. I feel that we are more free to program than what I hear you are.
Why is that?
Sorry?
Why is
because we book a lot of the supporting acts ourselves. I mean, I think that Scandinavia, and even though Copenhagen is closer to Hamburg than to Oslo or Stockholm, Copenhagen is a part of Scandinavia, a part of the northern countries, at least for the agents booking the European tours. So Scandinavia is often cut out of the rest of the European tour, and then they do Scandinavia alone. And then my experience is that the international acts don't. It's not that often that they bring their own supporting acts. Of course, we see it maybe 50% of the time. So I feel like we're more freely to book the supporting acts. But what we're looking for when we book upcoming acts, as you asked Adrian before, it has also changed a lot, because also pre-COVID, Copenhagen and also Vega used to be a venue where we could easily put on, like, let's say a Hungarian band and maybe a French act and then a Danish act on our smallest venue, and then people would just show up because, yeah, they wanted to check out the program and see what's going on, and Vega had this kind of renommee where it's always good quality and the ticket prices are not that big. We didn't sell anything in pre-sale; people just showed up. But that has changed completely. Now we sell 90% of the tickets in pre-sale, not much at the door. And people, I mean, even though it's something really, really new and very niche underground, all the acts sort of has a fan base already. And so what I'm looking for is, okay, here's a really, really great act. How are they communicating with the audience? Do they actually make an effort to get an audience in this city? I mean, for me, it's okay to sell 50 tickets for a Hungarian band in Copenhagen. That would be really, really cool. But I need to have some proof that they're actually doing something to get in touch with the Danish fans. I mean, we as a venue, we can do some promotion. We have posters for the monthly calendar, but it's hard for us to get into the specific crowds. So it's really, really much more depending on the act than previously, to be able to establish some sort of connection with the fans. So that's what I spend a lot of time looking into. Okay, yeah.
Have you seen any good example for that? Because it sounds a bit like also a chicken and egg situation where, you know, if the band has never been there, they don't really know anyone or know any other, I don't know, other bands or PR persons, or they really have to figure it out on their own. So if you've seen any good example for that, that would be great.
That's actually hard to say, because this is kind of new, but I often get really, really surprised. And then I ask the bands, how did you actually manage to get a crowd? Because we had a really, really hard time targeting an audience for this. And then it's very much like doing ads through Meta very specifically, but also do like much more like video content, and try to approach a certain area. Maybe make sure that this record shop in Copenhagen get like 10 records from this particular act, and maybe a poster to hang. I mean, on that sort of level. And actually some bands acts actually did that. And then I went to the local record store, and it's like, okay, they actually did something to promote this show that we as a venue didn't do, because we didn't know where to start. I mean, we do a lot of shows. So when I know it takes a lot of time and a lot of hard work to do this kind of things, but that's, at least that's my advice, to pick out, target some areas, some cities that makes it beneficial to actually go on tour even for a low fee, and sort of just bomb those places with all that you can think of to make people aware of your existence. And then also again, something that also is very important is genres isn't not really a thing anymore, at least for the young people. So it's much more about the connection with the act. I mean, young people now, we see the same crowd for a lot of different shows. It can be Afrobeat one night and metal crossover the other night, and it's because of the act and not the genre. So that's also, maybe that can actually be better for an act, to not try to fit into a genre, but more, okay, I want to target a specific crowd. Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you see this happening in Dortmund as well?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. It's not about the genre in the very end, it's about the band, to sell tickets. At some point, we have like a mysterious situation going on with some genres. especially in our part, for example, all the industrial dark wave scene is quite big. And this is more like a scene gathering or something like that. So at that point, it's not that important to be a big act in the scene, because the people are like, okay, cool, it's an industrial band, I go there. So but this is I think one of the only genres where this is working. But most of the time, like Jeppe said, the act needs to put effort in it. Yeah.
Do you look for signs before you actually book them that that's happening, or you kind of have to trust them that okay, they're gonna do everything they can, and they have to convince you, and then okay, let's see.
So I try to have a look. For example, where did they play before? So at some point, for example, a young Hungarian band who played in Belgium at AB, which is another venue. I don't know. I can ask them, for example, how was it there, and we as programmers in our part of Germany, we talk to each other about it. So when I know, okay, the band was in Cologne 2 years ago, I will ask the promoter of the Cologne show, how was it? How was the band? How was the audience? Was it nice? Were they nice? With the crowd, with the promoter, whatever. So I will try to have a look at this. And sometimes it's just intuition or something, and then fingers crossed that it's cool.
Yeah, like what's the percentage, or how do you look at the numbers and data versus your gut? Is there
in terms of
policy for you?
In terms of those Live Europe acts, I really don't look at numbers. So it's only about is it a good quality? Is the quality of the social media channels good? Is the music quality good? Is there an audience in their home country, for example? So if you have a Danish-based band who is not able to sell 50 tickets in Copenhagen, so I kind of know that this won't work in Dortmund either.
You mentioned both Live Europe a few times, and before on other sessions we had other people from other venues, but still I guess there's a few new people. Could you tell us a bit about Live Europe and why they should care what this is about from an artist's perspective?
Yeah, I can do that. Live Europe is a program under the European Union, Creative Europe, and it basically is a program where independent venue get a bit of funding if they book upcoming European artists. We are only we can only get funding for maximum 5 acts from each country every year, and we can get funding for maximum 50 acts each year. There are some criteria to meet for the artists before we can get funding for those artists. They cannot exist more than 5 years, 7 years now, and a maximum of 3 releases, I think. Something like that, yeah. So and 7 years might sound like a lot, but it's actually not a lot, because a lot of acts, before they actually are able to tour or play out of their home country, they often need to be playing for a certain amount of years to actually get to that point. So it used to be 5 years, but now it's 7 years, and that makes it much easier for us. And then we get funding, and then we have these not yearly, will be 4 times a year. We actually meet 3 times, yeah. And we have a really, really strong network between the venues, and we are good at telling each other about great bands.
When you meet, you're pitching bands to each other, or?
Yes, sometimes, yeah. But we also very well aware that we are working in different areas and in different realities. So, I mean, in Copenhagen, for instance, even though we get the funding for one act, our costings to produce a show is really, really high, so it doesn't really make that much sense to us. So we'll also need to pay, you spend a lot of the funding just producing the show. So we work in different ways, but it's definitely something that has helped us at Vega to book a lot of bands from different places that we see this Anglo-Saxon tendencies. It's lots of acts from America, from the US, Ireland and Scotland, a bit from our neighboring countries, but after we entered this program we see a lot more bands from Spain, France, Germany, Poland, etc. But not that many Hungarian acts, but that's also something with the distance.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
Denmark
far.
is far away, but I see for our colleagues in Slovenia and Austria, Czech Republic also, it really works. Like you can actually do a routing and play the live Europe venues. Yeah, so that's basically it. I think.
Your experience with
Yeah,
Europe?
it's pretty much the same at our place. So we weren't able to book any of those artists because like of the financial pressure, and then with the help of Live Europe, we're able to experience some new acts, some new countries at some
So
point.
it's been going on for 5-6 years now, maybe
No, it's
more 10.
we started
actually, maybe more.
2012, I think.
2014, yeah.
Oh, so
12 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
So do you see any like long-lasting effect, or what's your like bigger perspective on this?
Mm.
Is this something that nurtures audiences and some
Well,
of the
if I can start, I mean, as I said before, we saw immediate change and before COVID. As I said before, Vega was one of those places where people actually just came to see the show, even though they didn't know the band before. After COVID, it's another situation. So for us now, it's kind of hard. That long time effect has sort of. I think that maybe the platform needs to kind of reinvent itself. It still works technically, but there's so much stuff happening in Europe, and I mean, we don't feel that much connected anymore. I think so. So there are some issues with this platform, but it's definitely still working because we see an increasing amount of acts touring Europe within this program. So a lot of bands are actually touring, but I think to get people's attention and sell the tickets, it's harder.
yeah, it's a cultural thing more than the program probably.
Yeah, I can totally agree to what Jeppe said. So we nowadays try to like reinvent it at some point. It's more like a regional aspect, for example. So we have like a WhatsApp group going on with the colleagues from Amsterdam, Brussels, Luxembourg, and Lille in France, because it's like, from venue to venue, it's only like a 3-hour drive.
Yeah.
So what we try to do at the moment is like get the acts more like a tour to those cities. This works okay, but this will be the main goal in the future.
Makes sense,
especially
for the band as well, of
acts for us, for example. I mean, for me, it's completely easy to book like 5 bands a year from the Netherlands or from Belgium, because it's 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
But for bands coming from North Macedonia, for example, it's quite heavy.
Yeah.
And at some point we try to connect ourselves a little bit more. And but what Jeppe said, after COVID, it got really difficult, because when I look at my calendar in the venue, for example, I need to find the slots. So, and it's really, in terms of the domestic acts, for example, it's super difficult. And what can I prefer in the very end? So, and I prefer most of the time, sadly, the domestic acts selling out the main hall.
Yeah.
And not.
So in that sense, you really try to cater for the local audience and be some kind of like filter. Okay, what do they like, instead of being able to develop them or show them new things and somehow
I'm not quite sure. So it's all about like try and error situation for us. So I book an act, and then maybe it works, maybe it don't, and then up the next one, because otherwise it would be frustrating the whole time. So what we try is to like get the audience to our place for our program, and but this is not the structure how the music industry in Germany, for example, works, because it's like so focused on the act. and this is kind of difficult situation to get an audience is not possible anymore, I guess, because in times of social media and whatever, most of them are like really focused. So if you're a fan of whatever Metallica, you won't go to a show of the Rolling Stones anymore. But maybe 20 years ago it was different. I guess it was.
Yeah. In terms of, if you zoom out, like in terms of going to concerts in general, is that changing? Are there like you have more people coming to, or it's becoming harder and harder to sell those tickets?
For us, it's difficult. For the small room, for example, more like the newcomer stage with like 300 capacity or a little lower, it's way more difficult than it was before COVID, for example, to sell tickets. I'm not quite sure what it is about. I'm not like a professional in terms of financial whatever discussions, but I can imagine that when you go to a Taylor Swift show for 300 euros, there is no money left on your account to go to 3 small shows that month or that whatever year or something like that. And this is definitely this is a point, because even the small shows are like, okay, you have 20 euros for a ticket and you need to go there, you maybe want to have 2 beers and buy a shirt of the band, and then it's like 50 euros gone. But those 50 euros, yeah, Taylor Swift has.
Yeah. How's Denmark?
Yeah, kind of the same thing, but we're doing really well, and I have the impression that most venues in Copenhagen and Aarhus, which is the other big city in Denmark, are actually doing well, selling lots of tickets. We try to keep the prices low on the upcoming acts in our 200 cap and in our 500 cap. And actually, the last 2 years, we have increased our sales in the smallest room from 60 to almost 80%. So there's definitely people want the new stuff and they don't want to pay that much, and that's all. And then on the other hand, we can see the very expensive prices in the main room. When we have those, it's getting harder to sell those tickets, and that is because of all the arena shows and all the festivals. I mean, in Denmark we have so many festivals now, and they all, I mean, in October I think the 3-4 major festivals in Denmark, they have already announced 90% of the lineup, and just aggressively pushing the tickets towards the audience. And in the middle of our peak season, where we need to sell the last minute tickets, etc. So that's something that we can really see. And also all the arena shows we have this Royal Arena now in Copenhagen, and it's been going on for 6 years now, and they really started to host a lot of shows. And I mean, it's nearly 100 euro for a ticket for those kind of shows, and then you cannot afford to go to other shows. So I think that's kind of the problem. But we also see this counter reaction to that, and that's people actually going to the smaller shows again. And we also see a lot of new venues open in Copenhagen, like 100 or 200 caps, and so it's definitely something that the audience wants. Yeah, but it is a problem with the very expensive ticket prices.
Yeah. And how do you see the generational differences with older crowds, younger crowds? Do you see any specific trends that you can?
We can see lots of more young people coming to shows. We eventually do this kind of data, kind of analysis, to see how old are people and where are people living, etc. So we can definitely see a younger crowd coming to shows, and it's all kinds of different shows. So, and the older generation, they are much more affected by what's in the radio, and they need to get stuff served, while the younger generation is more adventurous and able to look up stuff and learn new stuff to know. but we see this gap definitely between the generations. Yeah.
Dortmund and gaps.
It depends on the act, and nowadays you have, especially the domestic acts are more for the younger people, and then most of the more international ones, it's like a 30+ situation, I would say, which is okay, because yeah, in terms of money, for example, it's cool to have maybe more, yeah, a little bit more older people, because they have more money to spend. Yeah. The new thing in Germany is like families. So this is like a huge market to do a project where you can come with your 5-year-old or
Taylor
something
Swift
like.
again.
Yeah. But it's, for example, we have like this. It's more like a metal band called Heavy Saurus, for example. It's like whatever, yeah, guys with costumes, and they're doing metal for kids, but it's cool for the parents as well. So and it's sold out every time.
Wow.
So something like that.
That's a thing in Denmark as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have like tons of acts doing this. It's so weird, but yeah, this is a thing.
The lyrics are also like really family friendly.
Yeah, it's super family friendly. Yeah. It's about whatever, having spaghettis with loud music. Something like that.
It's not really happening here, was it? No.
But yeah, I hope the younger generation in Germany will focus more on the small acts again, and maybe go to record shops and not on TikTok.
Germany is also really famous for its DIY culture and how
It is.
generation is just carving its way out.
And there still is a scene, so this is good. So there's still, for nearly every genre, there's like a real scene going to those shows. Especially like more the hardcore punk DIY scene is bigger than ever, I think, for example. I mean, it was all with this American wave at some point, but this, for example, works. Even like the industrial dark wave scene is big or still there, and there's a mixture, with the ages, for example. But in the domestic or the more common whatever alternative rock or pop indie, there's like this is really structured.
And these DIY scenes today work on like illegal terms, like venues that are not strictly live venues, or
this is not really possible in Germany, I guess. So we're really stuck with the law, and I mean there's a huge difference because it's not. From my perspective, it's not that politically wanted to open a venue in Dortmund, for example. So it's super weird. So people come there to work and to live there, maybe.
It's annoying for them to have allowed.
It's maybe annoying, and if I want to open a music club in my neighborhood, this won't work. So nobody will allow me this. Yeah, and this is sad. This is really sad because it needs more clubs, especially like in this more off cities like Dortmund, or there are many
and
others.
The ones that are there are being challenged all the time.
This is okay for us, for example, but we are more challenged by being on our own, because we only have like a few guys working at our place, and we can't do like 1,000 shows a year. But I could do 1,000 shows, but and I would love to have more venues to go to, or to send the act to and say, okay, our venue is too big, too small, whatever, go there to colleague XYZ, whatever, but there's no venue. So this is weird.
Okay. And how about developing acts? Do you work on specific acts sometimes? Do you follow their career or not really?
We do with the domestic acts. We do. there are a few international acts coming year after year and playing at our place, and this is nice. This is really nice, but it's more in terms of domestic that you can like do the step-by-step situation. And for international acts, it's in Germany it's so difficult because there are so many agents, so many agencies who have different interests with the acts, and and they most of the time go where the money is. Okay. And you always find somebody who has more of it.
Yep.
Yeah, we do it especially with the domestic acts, but because we have this 200 cap and the 500 cap and the 1,500 cap, we actually see that international acts do the introduction show at our smallest room and then come back for the middle room and then come back for the biggest room. I remember Cigarettes After Sex did that some years ago. We also had, and now I completely forgot, Fountains DC did the same thing at our venue. So it's something that we try to do. Of course, most of the time there are promoters involved as well, but we try to be that place that the band wants to come back to because they had a great experience the first time. But of course, then the money question comes up, and then they get offered. Maybe they get too big too fast, and then they go directly to the arenas. But we have. It's something that it's not like a strategic thing, but it's more the way that we try to build and maintain relations to agents and to promoters. On the domestic scene, we do a huge work to try to help and guide artists throughout the first years of their career. And we have different mentoring programs and also some smaller festivals. And we see it as very important for us because we have something, we need to have something to live from in 5 years. So it's, and we see the record industry is getting very, what do you say, they don't invest that much in upcoming acts or in building up anymore. They kind of check out, okay, they have so and so many followers on social media. They already have a crowd in these territories and regions, and then we sign them instead of building them up and believing in them from the start. So I see a lot of the development work is actually now other places than at the record labels, and I don't necessarily think that it's a venue's job, but the venue has a responsibility, and actually is also often closely connected with communities and etc. So I think we have a strong position and also some obligations to actually do a job, both on the domestic but also on the international. As I said before, after COVID, the domestic scene has become so strong, and I really miss the diversity in having foreign acts coming by the venue every day. And that's also inspirational for the local artists to see that there are actually other ways to do stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you said they're more and more sing in Danish. I suppose before it was more and more English to be internationally available better, and I think that's happening here as well. And so does it mean that also like the local acts don't really want to go abroad and don't really chase opportunities as much as before?
Yes, in Denmark it does, because as I also said before, I mean in Denmark there is quite a lot of funding actually for bands and venues and festivals, and a lot of people are buying tickets, and this Danish national radio, if you get one of those weekly slots where you're being played maybe 5 or 6 times a day, you're actually able to royalty-wise, you're actually able to make a lot of money. So you can actually build a career in only playing in Denmark. But that would only last for a certain amount of time, because everything sounds the same, and it's kind of and there's always a new act just right behind you, ready to step in. So it's not sustainable in any way, but it works right now, and I think that lots of promoters, festivals, and also venues are working very short term in this perspective, and not investing in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting how, you know, with the current political landscape where everyone's talking about how Europe should stand together on, I don't know, defense, energy, whatever, and I'm wondering like how it translates to culture, the cultural level. And it sounds like every other country and the people who come to this chair and talk, you know, they all talk about how the domestic market is being stronger and stronger. So it's going to be an interesting challenge.
But then again, also I just went to Eurosonic Festival and now in a couple of weeks going to Ment in Slovenia. And that's also, I mean, in terms of getting to know new music and see tendencies, how things work now in other countries, and it can sort of give you a glimpse on how can things actually also be in Denmark in my reality. So that's a really good place to see how things might look in the future. And what I see right now is that the whole genre thing, I mean, only a few years back we had we have world music, and that's all the stuff that you really can't place anywhere else, even though it's from the Balkan or some Uganda or like something not from what we're used to. But now it's really interesting to see how bands, artists are actually able to take their cultural roots or traditions to actually mix with another expression which actually works elsewhere, and that's something which is really but that because that was really hard before. But I see that a lot of acts, especially from Central Europe and the Balkans, are starting to get how to do stuff, which make was a long ramble.
No.
I think it's different for us in Germany, because in Germany you have like this long-lasting domestic acts since ages. So I'm not quite sure how familiar you guys are with the German music scene, but there are bands like playing stadiums for decades.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit different then, and but yeah, I can agree that there are so many acts coming, and they don't want to go abroad, which is weird because they're mostly singing in German as well. So there are only a few who might have the intention to go somewhere else.
And do you see any of those being embraced by an international audience?
There are a few. Like I said, Milky Chance, for example, is one of the biggest German bands in the US, for example. Acts like Giant Rooks are coming up, are still like on a good level. But yeah, they could be from London as well. So from the sound and from all the aesthetics and stuff. So this is the thing. Yeah, this might works abroad, but the domestic act in Germany, it's not possible for them to go somewhere else, even in terms of funding as well. So it's so expensive to go to whatever Hungary and play a show, and nobody wants to put the risk on this.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them. There are a few, especially like in this subgenre underground scene. That's a common thing to go abroad, but I mean, like the pop industry, they earn enough money when the system is running in Germany. So they maybe go to Austria then, or to Switzerland or something like that.
So it sounds like it's previously was a bit more like top to bottom in a way, that gatekeepers like agents or venue bookers like you guys could really curate and form the tastes, and now it's a bit more like bottom up, like the bands and the artists have to really find their communities and connect and grow through that.
I mean, it's so much easier nowadays to get some sort of attention because of like social media. It's super easy to get thousands of followers on Instagram or TikTok, and then you might have a chance, for example, in Germany, to get a record deal. But if you don't have the crowd on the internet, you won't sign anything. I can 100%.
Yeah, yeah. We have some time for questions from the audience. Do you have any questions? Anyone? Yes.
I have one. So, crowd on the internet you just mentioned. So, do you look at Facebook, Instagram, or Spotify plays, or Spotify listeners, or what is the main metric that gives you the best indication that band is doing well?
Depends. I look at it when it's a domestic act, for example. When it's a live Europe act, then I don't care. So then it only depends on the music and what the artist has achieved in its home country, for example. But I don't care if you have like 500 followers on Instagram or 500,000. I don't really know what this is all about. Because even if you have like 10 million streams, you won't sell any tickets. And it's definitely a thing. So I know a lot of acts who are very well streamed, but never played a show because it won't make any sense. So I don't really care about this when it, yeah. As long as it's a domestic act, then it might be a little bit more interesting.
So, do you rather look at, I don't know, videos of the band playing on Instagram or?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Video, some good quality live material where you can actually see what it's about, and also where you can get some kind of feeling how does the crowd react to this. And I mean, that's much better. I mean, that's what gets me hooked because I mean, you can never tell. Maybe 10,000 weekly listeners is maybe 10,000 in one city and in one region. I mean, there are some tools where you can sort of see this stuff, but it doesn't really give you a picture of how things are. And I mean, if we are going to book an upcoming act, it's because of the quality of the music and because we believe that it's something that would work well in this context, which is at our venues, and it's too much I mean, we cannot rely on the band selling the tickets, or if we can translate streams into ticket sales. I mean, that's still the creative and the gut feeling, and the whole. I mean, yeah.
It's not a measure. Streaming is not a measure for ticket sales.
Not at all.
Thanks for the question. Anyone else? Please do.
What about if I don't have a good quality live show video to show, but I have a good live session video to show, and maybe there's no audience? Would that still be a good way to see how someone performs live?
That would still be a good thing to I mean, I often also see these live sessions because sometimes it's a great live video and the sound quality can be shitty, but you can get the vibe, you know. But it's also nice to see that the artist is actually able to perform really well. So definitely that's also really helpful. But also the overall like presence on social media. Also, as I said before, even though there are not much communication between audience, the fans and the artist, but at least the way that the artist tries to communicate with the artist, how can they actually be on the level with the fans? If I can see there's some kind of exchange happening, and that it matters to some people, it's interesting. Yeah.
What I look at actually is sometimes comments on those videos. So I often read, like on YouTube, I read the comments. You often have this live session, for example, and then there's somebody like, okay, cool, come to Mexico. And then you think, wow, weird, this is a Czech band. What, why? But maybe there's an audience. And often for example, the German guys are doing this as well. So super interesting when you have like bands coming from, especially more like in terms of Latin music, for example. Or we do a lot of shows. We have quite huge Turkish community in our part of Germany, and they're like on the YouTube channels and really going wild underneath those videos. And when we book like a Turkish act, we know it at some point because all of the guys are like, okay, come to Germany, please, please, please. So and then this might be something I have an eye on sometimes.
By the way, I'm not sure about the community size of Hungarians in Dortmund, but is that something to consider?
I mean, there is like in our area there is definitely a community, I would say. So when you see the whole area, the Ruhr area plus Cologne, Düsseldorf and stuff, it's like about 6 million, 8 million people or something like that in a radius of 150 kilometers. There definitely are a Hungarian community.
Yeah.
But that's a good point to check out if there are any like communities, Hungarian in your case in the cities that you want to play, and that's actually also a selling point towards the venue. I mean, as soon as an upcoming band, I booked this Portuguese band a while back, and they were like, okay, we actually, 2 of us used to study in Copenhagen, and we have lots of friends there, and some family members, etc. And they will be there, everyone, and they actually went there, everyone. So
50 tickets.
That's the first 50 tickets, and that's actually important to that's definitely a selling point. If you can locate the community and also find your way to speak to them or communicate with this community, that's definitely helpful.
Just a random question before I forget. Make sure I ask this. Like, what's the minimum fee you guys pay to bands, or what should be like an asking rate, for a band that won't bring in huge crowds?
For our smallest venue, which is the 200 cap, fees are between 500 to 1,200 euro. Sometimes plus hotel, sometimes not. We have some backline, which you can rent or borrow depending on me on the day. No. I mean, sometimes it makes a world of difference when we can actually provide backline. So we have backline, but usually we rent it out because.
So 500 between 500 and 1,500. You say?
Yeah, somewhere between that. But I'd say 700 averagely.
It completely depends on my mood as well. No, just a joke. I think it starts around when you're playing on a small stage as a support act. It sometimes starts around 150 euros, but I think the average is 500.
Support is another case also.
Yeah.
It's maybe 150.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So what we try to provide is like hotel every time. Good food, good catering, a few drinks, and a quite good stage and a good environment for artists, I guess.
Yeah.
This is like a minimum because I've been touring myself. I know you did as well, and I really can't stand to sleep on floors, and I won't do this to anybody coming to our venue. I mean, it's cool, and it's a journey, but we try to have like a minimum of hospitality we give to the bands.
Your place is there also.
Yeah. Well, now I have kids, so it's so you're waking up really early in the morning.
Yeah.
It's good if you have a long drive.
Yes, there's one question.
Hello. Do you have any experience with acts that are more like when the audience sits down and listens? It's not dancing or buying beer necessarily for like a club environment.
If we have an experience with seated shows, yes.
For example, I don't know, like it's not kind of danceable.
Yeah, more like listening and Well, we don't do it much, but we are a part of the Copenhagen Winter Jazz Festival, where we do have some seated shows, and we also sometimes have seated shows in our main room. But the thing is that our business plan just doesn't work in that way, because we can only have half the audience and we are very much depending on people buying stuff in the bar. So for music, where it's this kind of situation or experience that you want to do, I would recommend other venues that Vega, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, same at our place. So we do it from time to time. We do have, for example, some spoken word stand-up comedy stuff playing at our venue as well. Then it's seated, but it's not our favorite. And we definitely try. We definitely say no to some genres, especially. We're not experts in jazz music, for example. We're not hosting any jazz shows because we're not the venue for it. So there are others. In Dortmund, for example, there's a really famous and good jazz club. And we don't do like the classical music. But there are a few seated shows. It's nice. But for me, we're not the venue for it. So for most of the people, it's kind of weird when we have seated shows.
Thanks for the question. Any other? One last one? Yes.
Just a question on Jeppe. I mean, Adrian mentioned that he also discusses with other clubs in the neighborhood, and to Dortmund there is a cheap flight for like a decade already, and in the Ruhrpott there are like 6 million people, so it's not that complicated to put follow-up gigs. Jeppe, you mentioned the existence of the city of Aarhus. Which routes do you recommend in connection with Copenhagen normally?
Well, there's Malmö in Sweden, which is basically 40 minutes away. So that's a good stop if you're going to Oslo or Stockholm. Sometimes I say that bands should not play Malmö because it's too close, but if you're like a small act, it doesn't really matter. I would say Odense, which is like in just between Aarhus and Copenhagen. It's also a nice place, but there are actually some smaller cities, which every city in Denmark has their like cultural space or concert venue, and they actually get funding, and I know that a lot of them are actually happy to book acts, also international acts. Also Aalborg in the very top of Denmark is also nice, especially if you're going to the rest of Scandinavia. Also, you can take the ferry a bit north from there to Oslo. So Denmark is a good transit country. Sometimes it's also just what we are. So, but yeah, Copenhagen is well connected to the rest of Scandinavia, and I mean Denmark. It takes 4 hours maximum to drive from one end to the other, so that's doable. Yeah, I can easily give you some advice or venues if you want.
Thanks. Okay, one last question. And then
Maybe just a quick follow-up.
oh, sorry. Yes.
Just a tip. When you're going through Germany, don't focus on the main cities. It's Dortmund is quite huge, but for example, when you're on your way to Denmark, play the small cities. Not Hamburg. Play Kiel. Play Flensburg. Play Husum, for example, or Bremen maybe, or something like that. Because they have the stronger audience, I would say, because there aren't that many shows, and there's like clubs doing 2 shows a week, and it's packed every time.
Also in Hungary, they are more thankful on the countryside.
Yeah,
They expect you back.
and especially for being a newcomer, it's cool to have a small audience in Kiel, for example, because in Hamburg there's like 100 shows per day, so it's difficult to be seen. But in Kiel, it's better.
Tip. Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, guys, for being here and sharing all this information. It was great talking to you, and I hope you're going to be available after this. So maybe someone has some more private questions and can go up there. So we're going to have a little break, like a 10 minutes break, and we'll continue with Dino and Isabella about talking about European festivals. So do come back, and we'll continue. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.